Welcome back to another instant-ish reaction edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your co-host Mike Broadman. Joining me once again is Richie Schneiderite and Craig Epstein. Guys, we got a lot to talk about. We got a new transfer football commit. We have some coaching changes to talk about. We also have a pretty disappointing basketball game to discuss from yesterday. But let's get right into it with this new football commit. We have a nose tackle from Ole Miss. His name is Isaiah Iton. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. He entered the portal on January 6th, and he committed to Rutgers January 8th. He basically, right from announcing he's going into the portal, took a visit to Rutgers, wrapped it up. He had an existing relationship with D-line coach Marquise Watson, who previously was the assistant defensive line coach at Ole Miss. So that one was a kind of a no-brainer. But tell us a little bit about what we're getting this kid, Rich.
Yes. I mean, you're beefing up the interior. You finally get a guy that's going to go next to, I guess, Hamilton for the most part, I'd say, or Conga. I guess it really depends because Hamilton's kind of more of like a swing guy at this point. He's going back and forth between the inside and outside. But you get some experience there, too. He's a former 4-star JUCO, like you mentioned. How was Rutgers able to get him? So he technically went to Northern Colorado first, then went to JUCO, then ended up at Ole Miss. He didn't do a whole lot the past 2 seasons. But like you said, the Marquise Watson connection is there. So now he's going to come to Rutgers, and he's probably going to be I want to say 99% sure he'll be the starter. He has 1 year of eligibility left, 6'4", 295. He's super athletic. Actually played the edge quite a bit in high school, and even in JUCO he played the edge a little bit. So he's like that kind of shows that athleticism that he can do that at that size. But probably going to play the inside for Rutgers. It looks like he packs like a really powerful punch. And at his point of attack, he tends to win like those battles against those centers and guards. So I'm a big fan of this guy. And I can't rave enough about how good this staff has done recruiting portal guys defensively. And even in high school recruiting, it's always been Chiano's MO. Like, it's just recruiting defense and developing defensive players. And it's another big win for Rutgers. And you're getting a pretty solid kid for next season.
But here's the real question, Richie. I think everybody's wondering. Can he play the cocknose?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, boy.
Cocknose is dead. Yeah. That was Julius Turner's role. That's never coming back, hopefully. But no, he's going to be a pretty good player. He's interesting. He hasn't done much for Ole Miss. I know some Ole Miss fans are a little upset that he's leaving. Others are like, yeah, he was kind of like second, third string for us, so whatever. But it doesn't seem like he developed too much from his time at JUCO to Ole Miss, but I think you trust Rutgers here. And you get some good size, like 6'4", 295. Guys don't grow on trees, especially ones that are good. Like, he had a 4-star ranking for a reason. Like, and I trust our JUCO guy more than anyone in the entire world. This man's been on what was that show? That JUCO show?
Well, that's not a bad name
Last
for it.
Chance,
Last Chance U. Yeah,
the JUCO show. I kind of like that.
Yeah, there you go. His name's Brad Hoyseth. He's been phenomenal. He's been doing this for like 30-something years, and he was interviewed multiple times by Last Chance U. Like, he knows what the hell he's talking about when it comes to JUCO players, and he loved this kid. So if he loved the kid, I trust his evaluation.
Yeah, he's a massive human being. If you see pictures of him, he's just like, he looks like one of those dudes who's just like, he's not cut huge, but he's just massive. Like, his arms are massive. He's got this like barrel chest. He's a massive, massive person. So he'll add some much needed beef to the interior. He's kind of filling in for the Iton Maija role, and I think he's better than Iton Maija. We only get him for 1 year. He's got 1 year of eligibility. But this is a kid, like you were saying, that there was a bit of a mixed reaction. So he saw a lot less playing time at Ole Miss this year than he did in 2021. Everybody was excited about what the potential was of him in 2021, but he never really seemed to get any better, like you said, since JUCO. And that's honestly on Ole Miss, because it's your job as a staff to develop guys. And I think we could see a good deal of development, because, I mean, if you just look at how much some of our offensive or defensive linemen had developed under Schiano and company, like the jumps that Wesley Bailey and Aaron Lewis made this year, they were night and day different players. Like, our defensive line turned from a liability in 2021 to arguably like the strongest unit on the team in 2022. So I do think there's quite a bit of potential to unlock with Iton in his 1 year at Rutgers, especially because there's going to be playing time available. He's going to be able to play a ton here. So I do like this commitment a lot.
Yeah, and plus, as we kind of said during the season, if you can get a guy like him in the middle who can kind of just, at the very least, just be like a stuffer kind of guy, that opens up kind of the Aaron Lewises and the Wesley Baileys on the edges, and they can just feast on the quarterback. So honestly, like you see it in the NFL, see it in college, where it's like the defensive line is just basically it's like a domino effect, where if one piece works so well, it kind of opens up those other pieces, and if the one piece kind of falls apart, then kind of the whole thing might crumble down. But with this guy, if he's as good as you guys say he is, then yeah, that should probably open up things for Lewis and Bailey.
Yeah, plus a good defensive line can mask other deficiencies. Like, you don't have to have a great secondary if you have a great defensive line. I mean, just look at like some of the best defenses in the NFL. It's like the Eagles, the 49ers, the Bills before Von Miller got hurt. All those teams are built right around their defensive line. Like, they have, 8 guys deep on all those teams because they know how important it is to generate consistent pressure, to be in the backfield, because it causes, throws. It causes routes not to be able to develop on time, causes errant throws, causes tip passes. So I think Rutgers is understanding how a defense needs to be built. It has to be built around the trenches and move outwards. So I'm very excited about this commitment.
Yeah. So, I mean, mind you, he also had a top 6 before going to Ole Miss. Like, it's not like Ole Miss was the only school after him. He had a top 6 at Florida State, Missouri, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Maryland. He also had an offer from an intriguing program that we're very fond of now in Minnesota. Who was the co-DC at Minnesota when he got the offer? Joe Harris-Simiak.
Oh, at JUCO?
Yeah, out of JUCO. He got a Minnesota offer, and it was Joe Harris-Simiak, Coach Fleck, obviously. Obviously, he was only co-DC, so it wasn't full, reins of everything in terms of recruiting and all that other stuff, and the defensive line in general. But he's still part of the process there. So they obviously connected a little bit, and they were hanging out all day yesterday at the rack. I'm calling it the rack. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, and this was one of the positions that we had talked about as something the staff was looking to fill in the transfer portal as an interior defensive lineman. It sounds like now that we don't have a full offensive staff fully announced or developed. We're going to talk about that in a second. But there are additional players that we have told you guys that we're going to try and land out of the portal. At least one receiver, at least one tight end. It wouldn't surprise me if they landed multiple of each. Yeah,
potentially an O lineman too. That one's still a little up for debate. I guess Soraka's probably going to come in, look at the guys, and be like, "All right, well, watched your tapes. You stink. I need a new one.
Yep.
Let's go find a tackle."
Yep. And so let's just hop right into that. We've been alluding to some coaching stuff. So let's start with the OC. So obviously at our last pod, we talked about Rutgers landed its offensive coordinator in Kirk Soraka, who we all know from his first stint around. He was previously the offensive coordinator at Rutgers in 2009 and 2010. The Board of Governors meeting happened on Saturday, where they announced his contract. He's going to be making $1.4 million over 3 years for Rutgers. Mm-hmm. Not a bad pay bump for a guy who's making $625K last year and was an offensive assistant at West Virginia in 2021. So he went from making $625K to getting an extension with Minnesota for $950K a year to $1.4 with Rutgers. Whoever his agent is, great job there.
Phenomenal. Oh shit.
Let's talk about other members of the staff, though. It sounds like they're not done shaking up the staff. You broke the news that it doesn't seem like Augie Hoffman, the offensive line coach, is going to be back at Rutgers. He's removed all references to Rutgers on his social media. He changed his social media handles, on at least Twitter. So he's definitely not coming back. What else are you hearing regarding the coaching staff?
Yes, I think that's the big one right away. You mentioned that, you don't change. I know everyone's like, well, you don't know he's out, and it's like, my man went from at Coach Hoffman RU to Augie H, H3 or whatever. The man's gone. I hate to say it, he's not coming back. It sounds like he's done. His contract did technically was when he got that extension. What was it, a year ago or 2 years ago? It brought him into 2020 or through 2024, or February 2024 is when it would technically expire. So it technically, I guess, is a firing, of course, of sorts. I don't know if you want to say the term firing, let go, whatever. It's all the same. It's all the same terminology. So that was an interesting one to me because I didn't see him leaving. I thought I saw a couple others that probably would have been let go, but they did. It sounds like Augie's gone. you're going to need a new O-line coach now. Now, what do? There's some interesting options out there. Starting right away with Callahan at Minnesota, who's been Kirk Soraka's OC or O-line coach for just about every year except one since 2013 or two, I guess, because you count that Penn State year. He was the tight ends coach. He was Western Michigan's O-line coach from 2013 2016. Minnesota tight ends in 2017. Minnesota O-line from 2018 to present day. So that's an intriguing name. I don't know if you at this point just steal the entire staff from PJ Fleck. Everyone else left the staff. Like, why not just hey, I just will take Callahan too. Like,
yep.
There's also some big names. If you want to shoot for the stars, you go after Darnell Stapleton. I think down at Florida, and if you could pluck an SEC coach, it's like holy shit. Like, it's pretty.
Is he the full-time D-line or offensive line coach at Florida?
Yep, he is. Billy Napier apparently loves him. He's got juice. He's an NFL player, former NFL player. You know, he's going to go around flaunting that Super Bowl ring too. I mean, you just stole a Big Ten.
I thought he was so much older than he is. He's 37, so his NFL career ended in 2009, and he's only 37. Wow.
He got the chip and left. He's like, "Fuck this! Yep. I got my ring. I'm good. I don't need to do anything else." Like, the obvious name and the most one that we've kind of heard it the most and makes the most sense in my opinion is just Scott Vallone. Now people are like, "He's D-line. He played D-line his whole career." It's like, exactly. Who would know the offensive line better than a D-line guy? It's like the same thing as like the DC knows the offense better than the OC, blah, 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 vice versa. He's also been really good on the recruiting trail. And recruiting's what? I used to be like 50% of the battle. I'd argue recruiting 75% of the battle at this point.
Yeah. Yep. Well, especially because they've cut down the limitations on like staff sizes. So like, and also this is going to change a lot too because now you can have as many guys on the road as you want. So it's going to change that. That's
going to be interesting.
Like you can almost have like two different sets of coaches, like one's for recruiting, one's for actually coaching.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because when they had that open role where Susan took over tight ends and Gleason was gone, Vallone was the one that got bumped up and went to the road. Similar to like what Ole Miss did with Watson like a year ago or 2 years ago. You probably bump your top assistant or top recruiter and put him on the road. And he's a big reason like why they landed Dylan Braithwaite, why they landed Ian Strong. He's the reason why the Josiah Brown is like heavily considering Rutgers. Like he's a hell of a recruiter. I think it would make a lot of sense just to bump him up right away and just be done with it. Plus, he played on the teams that Kirk Soraka coached. Like, I just think it makes a lot of sense there, in my opinion. But then there's two other names. Joe Susan I put on my hot board personally because he is an O-line coach through and through. He was Rutgers O-line coach for 9 years under Schiano before getting the Bucknell head coach job. He actually even won Patriot League Coach of the Year at one point too. Like he knows what he's doing. It's probably an old school hire. It's not the sexy hire that people like, but New Jersey guy, he gets it. In terms of putting him on the road, obviously they didn't want to do that, and I don't think he wants to do that in his age. He's probably just like, fuck that. Recruiting sucks. Like it's not fun anymore. I wonder if there's like a deal you can make where it's like, all right, Joe, you're the O-line coach, but I'm putting Vallone on the road full time. And just give Vallone a little bit of a pay bump. Now, the interesting thing with Vallone, his contract ends in February 2023. So it's like it kind of lines up to be like Vallone's job, if you're kind of just guessing at this point. But yeah, that's pretty. Oh, the other name is the Indiana O-line coach Bob Bostad, who I think we mentioned quite a bit in the past. He was interested in Rutgers' O-line job under Ash or whatever it was. Yep. Yeah. So that was a couple years ago, but he's an interesting one because Schiano technically gave him his first NFL and one of two NFL stints ever. He was Schiano's O-line coach in Tampa for 2 years, so they obviously know each other. They're very close with each other. He trusts him. And then again, you can pluck Indiana's O-line coach. Now you're basically just telling the Big Ten West to fuck off. Like we're the big boys over here. It's a different game. And if you got this money, like fuck it, start flaunting it. Like throw it. I don't know. It would make a lot of sense to steal somebody, but Vallone makes the most sense in my opinion.
Yeah, the Callahan one's interesting because we've seen with the Sean Gleason hire, he brought in his offensive line coach. When Harris Simiak was brought in last year, he was able to bring in one of his guys in Corey Heatherman at linebackers. It seems like Greg takes a lot of input from his coordinators in terms of his staffing. So it wouldn't surprise me if Kirk was like, this guy's the best. I've worked with him now for 8 years. We got to go get him. Yeah. I was talking to Tony Liebert about possible like staff movements if he's heard anything additional from Minnesota. He said he hasn't heard anything, and that he would be really surprised if Brian Callahan left, because he is pretty loyal to Fleck. And the same thing for Matt Simon, who's now in line to be the offensive coordinator at Minnesota. He said one name he said that wouldn't surprise him was Greg Harbaugh Jr., who's not related to Jim Harbaugh, but he's their tight ends coach, I believe.
That'd be interesting.
Because
that's definitely a bump up. Like,
yeah, there were some rumors on the boards that like he might be bringing somebody with him, a friend with him, I think it was. And who knows if that's a player, if that's a coach, to be determined. But
you said he's not related to Jim Harbaugh?
Not that I could see, no.
Okay, interesting.
At this point, I think if a Minnesota person sees the 732 area code on their phone, they're just like, God damn it.
Damn, a lot of money. Let's go.
Well, the person that's getting the job is happy, but like,
of course.
If it's like PJ Fleck, he's like, damn it.
So Greg Jr., am I reading this correct? Because I looked up Greg Harbaugh, and Greg Harbaugh is a NASA astronaut. Is Greg Jr. his son? We're going like way off base here. But
I don't know.
Just like, holy shit! Like if that's, and then his son's Greg the Third. Like maybe that would make that'd be kind of cool to talk about. Supposedly, we will be talking to the OC shortly. I was told, so we'll see what he has
like
to
today
say.
or this week.
No, I'm probably not even this week. I'd probably say next week, but yeah.
I want to pat ourselves in the back here. Our theory. Their tinfoil hat theory from this past weekend turned out to be true.
We have a lot.
So the theory that Greg probably went to Soraka in December, he got turned down, and then he got an extension. Then he came back around and offered him again. A lot of the reporting that's coming out of Minnesota is that Greg basically like kept coming back to Kirk. Kirk kept turning him down, and eventually he made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
66% increase. It's like, holy shit.
Well, 66% increase from his extension. It's more than 100% increase around. Yeah. Like it's like 128% increase from what he was making last year.
That's what it's going to take for the East Coast. That's those East Coast taxes for you.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah, I mean, he just had all the leverage too. Like Greg, everybody knew Greg was in a position where he couldn't fuck this up, and so you're able to get a little bit more. So you finally get like an exorbitant amount of money to be a competent offensive coordinator, which is like kind of what we got.
I mean, plus his son's at Monmouth, his daughter's a law student at Rutgers. Like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
I mean,
let's be honest. If Rutgers, let's say, averages in 20, let's just say 28 points per game, and they win, nobody's going to care about 1.4 million as long as they win.
That's like, end of the day, I'm starting to come around to it a little more. I know it's pretty negative at first, but it's
like it doesn't have to be pretty. As long as they win, nobody's going to care.
I know his offenses are just never sexy, which I love. Like you watch the Big 12, you watch the Pac-12. It's just like, wow, holy shit, man! They're just chucking it. They don't give a fuck. Like,
but you watched that Rutgers Minnesota game, where Minnesota just ran all the time and won 30-0. If Rutgers was on the flip side of that, you wouldn't care.
This is the perfect hire for complimentary football. And I've heard that term fucking so much lately. Like between the NFL, between college, this is complimentary football. Greg's still going to rely on his defense to win these games, but he just needs offense to just at least score like, I don't know, 20 points, 21 points. You score 21, it's like, all right, we'll do the Steve Peichel method. We'll hold them to 17. And maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. We'll just see, because the Big Ten's not the Big East, so.
Just lacking sectionists on both sides of the ball, or both of our major programs in terms of basketball and then football, just relying totally on defense. Some people love that. I know Chris is like all about, defense, but the majority of people aren't.
I like it for hoops. I'll admit that. Hoops is fun to watch, but it's this. Like, nothing gets me more amped when you got like just you're one-on-one on a guy on basketball and and you're just like, I don't know. It's just something like when you're covering a guy one-on-one, you just lock him down, and that crowd just goes bonkers behind you. Like it's just it's a great feeling. But then go on. That's all I got.
So yeah, I guess we could transfer now to hoops and talking about teams that did not get locked down yesterday. The Iowa Hawkeyes came into the rack, as we're calling it now, and totally just shot the lights out against Rutgers. They won 76 to 65. Rutgers never led in this game. It seemed like it was just Iowa's game from the start. We've kind of alluded to how much good luck Rutgers has had against defending threes all season. It's just really tough to keep up that kind of level of defense. Eventually, there's going to be a team who comes in and they shoot a really, really good game, and that was Iowa. They shot a lot of threes. They made 12 of 27 threes, I believe, against us. They shot 44%. And Rutgers, every time it seemed like they were making a comeback, they'd cut the lead, to 7. They'd cut the lead to 5. Iowa would just hit these crazy dagger threes. They would get an offensive rebound and get a kick out 3. Rutgers just couldn't get over that last little hump. Craig, what did you see? Or Richie, you were at the game, but I want to hear first, Craig, what you thought of the game.
Yeah, I think just kind of it was probably a bad matchup for them, just because Iowa is probably one of, if not the best shooting teams in the Big Ten. And obviously Rutgers, their forte isn't exactly its offense. They kind of, like we said, rely on their defense to win them a lot of these games. And 3 days and 5 days didn't help, but that's really, you can't use that excuse because the Big Ten schedule is what it is. But, they like you said, it's just one of those days where a team is going to come in, knock down their shots, and Rutgers is going to have to respond. And they just didn't. I mean, they fell behind by 18 points early in the second half, and Rutgers' offense is just really not built to be able to come back from that. I mean, really, if you think about it, other than Spencer, there's really nobody else on this team that you can really depend on to consistently make threes. And Richie, we were talking about before, he just makes these threes that it's like, you're like, what are you doing? Oh, that was a good shot. And it's just like,
no, yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of just, but everybody else, it's just like their 3-point shooting isn't great. And when you fall behind by that many points, it's nice to kind of play that mid-range game, you can try and piece away at it, but it just takes too much time. So it's trying to dig up, putting yourself in an 18-point hole in the second half for Rutgers is just probably going to spell the end for them. And they made some threes, but that obviously not enough. And like I said, I just thought this was kind of a bad matchup for them. But and now to me, it's all about how they respond, because as we saw the Ohio State game, they had a little bit of that hangover, and then it bled into the Seton Hall game, and that was just pretty much just a big clunker. So now if Rutgers wants to prove that they can be one of the best teams in the Big Ten, just shake a loss like this off quickly, because now you got to face a pretty good Northwestern team again at Northwestern. They're coming off a pretty big win at Indiana, so got to shake that off. Go to Northwestern, and just try and beat them now.
Yeah. So Richie, the ultimate mush, was attending his first Rutgers game this past weekend, and of course it was a loss. But what did you see in person, Richie? Discouraged or encouraged?
Craig was there too. We were both.
Oh, you were?
Watching. Yeah, we were both watching the game.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
It was interesting. I got relegated to. I guess I hit confirmation too late to the game, so I got relegated to the auxiliary press box at one point. Which honestly, it's not an awful view. You get that glass above that little premium section there. It's a pretty decent view. But anyway, it was like Craig said, it was just every time they fought back, it's just. The first half sucked. Let's just put it like that. That was just ugly basketball. It was brutal. Couldn't shoot. They couldn't defend. What was it? It was what they have in the first half. 30. 30.
Which for them it's usual, because I feel like usually they're 30, but usually it's a close game. But they were down by 12, I think, at the halftime.
And then they gave up 51% shooting from the field, at the first half. That was just disgusting. Yeah. They did fight back. They fought back a lot, and that's Steve Feipel's. Oh, hold on, if I remember. What do you call it? Yeah. So they fought back a ton in the second half, and every time they fight back, it's a dagger 3, and it's like Jesus.
Yep.
Fight back, dagger 3. Fight back, dagger 3, and it's just like, geez, dude, what is going on? I've never seen a team shoot that well at the rack. Mm-hmm. Jordan Bohannon and his how he said there's a gypsy curse and shit. It was only him. It was only on him specifically. It wasn't on this Iowa team yesterday. It was ridiculous. And their matchups are probably bad too. If you look at the just 5-on-5 matchup versus Rutgers, they have a little bit of an undersized center compared to Cliff. And for some reason, Cliff just gets bodied by these undersized centers, and it was brutal. They attacked the shit out of the paint, and there was just nothing they could do against it. They had I think out of those, what did I say, 40, 42 in the first half? I think out of those, it was 24, 25 points were in the paint. they just attacked the paint, and there's nothing really Cliff could do about it. Overall, and then the shooting was just bad too. And obviously, it got better in the second half. I thought Cam was pretty not on fire, but he was doing pretty well. And I probably would have had him take like a couple more threes because he was shooting really well from three. And I said this before the pod. Every time he took a three, I'm sitting in the press box. I'm like, dude, contested. What the hell? Oh, it went in. Shit. All right. Yep. Next one. Like, that guy's even because in his face. Like, oh, what is he doing? It went in. All right, cool. Third one, he fucking falls. He gets fouled. No foul called. I know, Mike, you alluded to this before the pod. The refs pretty much swallowed the whistle like the entire game. But if you read the tweet, I quote tweeted today from the Rutgers Rivals Twitter, Iowa thinks that the whistle is on Rutgers' side, and it's just like, all right, well, no, but sure. But he got fouled on another three, and he hit it. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? You know what? At this point, just chuck. Like, I don't care. If you're hitting those, just keep going. You're feeling it. And I do want to pat myself on the back a little here, too, because I said, before, I guess it was 2 games in the Big Ten play, I was like, yeah, Cam Spencer's struggling. Just let him keep shooting. Just keep shooting. Just keep shooting. And it seems like this game, the game before that, when he hit the dagger winner or the game winner, he's back. Like, he's back in his mood, back in his good flow. Now the rest of the team has to start shooting threes because they're starting making threes. They're shooting them. They're just not making them.
Yeah, man, if they could have a second guy like that, like I could just knock down threes, I feel like it would open up the offense even more. Sometimes you see it with Hyatt where he'll just kind of do the same thing. He takes these threes. You're like, what the? Oh, it went in. Okay. But then he'll just disappear like the second half of games. And, they just really need a second kind of go-to shooter like that. I think it would open up the offense a lot more.
We just need consistency, man. Like, Paul sometimes looks like the most efficient offensive player in the country. And other nights he literally can't make a shot. Like, I think he started the game last night or yesterday 0 for 8 from the field, if I remember correctly. He ended up scoring 7 points. But, Cam was the only guy doing anything beyond the arc yesterday. He went 3 for 6 from 3. The rest of the team went 2 for 12. Like, we need to get a second guy who can hit an open shot because we had the opportunity to claw back. Every time we were within 5 or within 6 or within 7, we would get an open shot and we would miss it. We were also missing a lot of shots right around the rim, too. Like, we have to be one of the worst teams in the country at finishing within, 5 feet outside of Cliff. Yeah. Because there was just runners from Paul, runners from Cam, runners from Watt Mag that were just bunnies. Like, you should be making those, and they bricked them. So we had opportunities, we just didn't take advantage of them.
There's little stuff too. Like, even Derek Simpson, obviously he got fouled on the one on the. It should have been an and one. The man goes up right-handed right in front of the guy and then gets hacked. And it's like, dude, this is simple basketball. Just if you're on the left side of the rim, you go up this way so he can't foul you. Can't hit the ball. Can't hit your hand. Like, you might still get the foul, but you get an easier lay-in with your left hand. And it's just simple stuff like that. And it's drove me nuts seeing that. And I know he's a freshman. He'll learn still too. But then I hate to say it, you hype up Dean Reber like this 3-point shooter. The man doesn't attempt anything.
Yeah, he's not good.
I hate to say it, Woolfolk's got to take his minutes. I know Woolfolk only played 1 minute and Dean Reber played 5, and it's not significant minutes. But he's got to take his minutes at this point. I think that's without question, especially if Reber's going to get abused down low. You got to do something. Reber was in for the first minute, and then they attack him. They know who the weakness is. They're going to go attack him in the paint. There's times where he hustles. I'm not going to deny his hustle. He hustles every fucking time, actually. And he'll try to push people around, but he's just not a big body at the end of the day. He's not able to get there. And he's kind of becoming a liability on defense, and he doesn't shoot the ball, so he's a liability on offense.
Yeah. And Iowa just seems to always have this this guy like Peyton Sanforth, who just killed us yesterday, these 6'7" to 6'9" wings who just can knock down open shots. I mean, we got killed by Joe Wieskamp for years. Jared Utoff at the beginning of us being in the Big Ten killed us a few times. They just always seem to have that guy on Iowa who is literally a creative player. It's what height should I make him? 6'9", white guy, can shoot threes. Only seems to really break out against Rutgers. They were some of the shots Iowa hit yesterday. You just got to tip your cap to them because they were just coming around screens, hitting 23-foot fadeaways, just nothing but net. They just at times they were unstoppable. They just answered every single punch we gave them with a knockout blow from them. So I think we had an 8-0 run at one point and they called a timeout. And like right out of the timeout, they hit just a dagger 3 out of the corner. So it was tough. They played a really good game. Rutgers didn't have it yesterday, unfortunately.
And let me know if you agree, but I feel like it's so weird. I feel like Rutgers' style is more built for the Big Ten, so Rutgers might end up being more successful in league play. But as we've seen now, year after year now, when the Big Ten gets to like the March Madness, and they face more teams like an Iowa or whoever it may be that can actually step back and shoot the ball, they get knocked out in like the first, second round so early, and it's just like it's like Big Ten plays that old kind of maybe 1980s style of basketball, and then everybody else kind of plays that more current NBA style, and they end up winning in the end. So I guess I don't know. It's just it's like a vicious circle kind of thing.
Well, that's why they say that what do you call it? That's why the tournament championship drought is for the Big Ten, is because they're not adapting to the new basketball. They're just playing old school, and it's.
But it's also because I feel like, but it's at the same time, it's like they can't, because it's like they almost can't survive league play like that. So it's kind of like a circle.
That's why, like, Iowa's 2-4, 2-3.
Exactly.
Like
Iowa will end up. Let's just say Iowa will end up middle of the pack, maybe sneak into the tournament as whatever, like a double-digit seed. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who go on a run because they play that style of basketball. But it's just so weird how it's like to survive league play, you got to play this way, but to survive the dance, you got to play this way.
Exactly.
It's very weird.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rutgers just doesn't seem like they have a clear path to coming back from a big deficit. I mean, obviously we were down by 18. We closed it to 5 at one point. So there is a path, but it relies basically on like continuing to play lockdown defense and just cashing in on fast break steals. Because on a day where Cam Spencer looked really good, there was nobody else who really could take up the mantle.
I guess you want to take
the
a
other shooter.
positive to the fact. I mean, it's. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less from a Pikel team, but they were down. Like you said, they were down by 18, cut it to 5, a couple stops here and there. It's a new game, so maybe we're not going to happen against Iowa because they're probably the best shooting team in the conference. But if somebody else was to build up a lead like that, maybe it's a different story. Well, maybe it's a different story one of these days.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the goal to go down by 18.
No, it's not. Well, we covered a lot here, guys. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we sign off?
Oh, and I actually wanted to mention, so after the game in the press conference room, it was very interesting how, so obviously they started out with the game, but Fran McCaffrey, the first thing he talked about, I don't know if you guys saw, was the fact that obviously you heard about his son kind of stepped away from the team because he's dealing with anxiety. And apparently Rutgers, the team went over to him and they actually made it like give him a get well card. Everybody signed it, gave it to him. So Fran McCaffrey kind of just explained, talked about how classy Rutgers was and that type of thing. And obviously they went over to talk to him and things like that. So it's just very classy gesture by them. And then Pikel came in and he was asked about it and he discussed it started out as kind of like a press conference room, but then it also became kind of like a conversation about I guess mental health with like just college athletes. And I thought if you get the chance, I think anybody should really watch McCaffrey's post-game conference and Pikel's post-game conference, because I thought it was just a very, very good, very real thing that's like shows that like I think with everything that's gone on with sports today, between the DeMar Hamlin thing, between McCaffrey, I hope we're kind of going in a direction where we see as athletes aren't just like these robots who go out there to play for our entertainment. It's also, these are like human beings that do these things and have real emotions and things like that. And we're kind of just, kind of building maybe more of a bond between, I guess, fan, whatever it may be, between fan and player. I hope we're kind of going in more, and I hope we can continue going in that direction, and that we can have more of an understanding that maybe, sometimes we want to, sometimes you want to, you just so caught up in the moment that you want to tweet something that you go back and look back and you're like, that wasn't such a nice thing to say. So I kind of hope we continue to go in that direction and realize that these aren't just, robots out there, that they are actual people with real emotions. And no matter if they're on scholarship, making money, whatever it may be, they're still, at the end of the day, they're still humans. And I hope we just continue to, build upon that, because I thought it was a very good conversation we had.
I don't know if I can follow that one up. That was very well said, Craig.
Thank you.
So Rutgers plays Wednesday, Northwestern. It's going to be a tough one. Ohio State after that, Michigan State after that, Penn State after that, Iowa after that. You don't get an easy game until February 1st. So this is the gauntlet. This is it. Welcome to the Big Ten. It's Q1, 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 Q2, Q1, Q4. So,
yep. It is a tough road. So stay tuned to your podcast feed. Stay tuned to the boards. There might be some more breaking news later. I don't know. We'll have to see. We also have a very special podcast for you guys that'll be coming out soon as well. We'll be talking to a former offensive player who played under Coach Soraka at Rutgers to kind of discuss what it was like playing for him, what it was like playing for Rutgers in general. So stay tuned to that because that'll be coming out in the near future. But for me, for Richie, for Craig, thanks again for listening. This has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.